An engineer wrote a memo that should have stopped everything. 3 years later, 346 people died in a forest in France, exactly as he predicted. This is the DC-10, the jet that promised to revolutionize aviation with 3 engines, wide-body comfort, and lower costs than Boeing's 747 Airlines ordered it by the dozens. Passengers trusted it with their lives. But hidden in its cargo hold was a design flaw so catastrophic that when it failed, pilots had 6 minutes before impact. No survivors, no second chances. So in this video, we're covering why McDonnell Douglas ignored the engineer who predicted disaster, the 2 fatal accidents that exposed the truth about cutting corners, and whether the death jet stigma was deserved or just media hysteria. Let's dive in. Our story begins in 1967. Boeing's 747 is about to debut, a giant that can carry 400 passengers. But there's a problem. For most airlines, it's simply too much airplane, too many seats, too much fuel, too much risk. Airlines need something smaller, bigger than narrow-body jets, but far more efficient than the 747. The race is on to build the perfect wide-body. 2 contenders step forward. Lockheed with its elegant L1011 TriStar, and McDonnell Douglas with the DC-10. McDonnell Douglas makes a bold gamble. While rivals experiment with twin engines, they choose 3. Why 3 engines? Because in the 1970s, ETOPS regulations were a massive roadblock. Lose 1 engine on a twin, and you might not make it to an alternate airport. Regulators wouldn't allow twin-engine jets to cross oceans or fly remote routes. 3 engines were the sweet spot, enough redundancy to fly almost anywhere, but still more efficient than a 4-engine jumbo. American Airlines became the launch customer, ordering 25 DC-10s. United quickly followed with 30. Continental with 15. From concept in 1967 to passenger service in 1971, just 4 years. That aggressive timeline put enormous pressure on the engineering team, and it forced them to make decisions that would prove catastrophic. Here's a detail most people miss. The DC-10's cargo hold. McDonnell Douglas designed it to be unusually spacious, maximizing revenue for airlines. At the time, it looked like a clever advantage. But that design decision created a critical problem. Most aircraft cargo doors open inward, held shut by cabin pressure. It's a natural fail-safe design. The DC-10 doors open outward to maximize that valuable cargo space airlines loved. Think about what this means. An outward opening door must withstand enormous pressure differences at cruising altitude. If the locking mechanism fails, explosive decompression could destroy the aircraft in seconds. Enter Dan Applegate, a McDonnell Douglas engineer who understood the physics better than anyone. In 1971, he wrote an internal memo that should have stopped everything. His warning was prophetic. The cargo door locking mechanism is dangerously unreliable. If the door blows out, explosive decompression will collapse the cabin floor and sever critical flight control cables. But corporate culture revealed its true nature. Applegate's memo disappeared into company bureaucracy. McDonnell Douglas was hemorrhaging money, racing to capture market share from Boeing and Lockheed. Redesigning the door system would mean catastrophic delays. Cost and schedule pressures won. Safety concerns lost. Then reality intruded? If you're finding this story chilling, hit that like button and subscribe for more aviation deep dives. June 12, 1972. American Airlines Flight 96. A DC-10 departing Detroit for Buffalo with 67 people aboard, climbing through 11,000 feet when Applegate's nightmare became real. The cargo door blew out with explosive force. The cabin floor partially collapsed, jamming flight controls exactly as Applegate had predicted. Captain Bryce McCormick and his crew fought the compromised systems, nursing the crippled DC-10 back to Detroit Metro Airport. Their airmanship saved every life aboard. The NTSB investigated and confirmed the obvious. The cargo door latch mechanism failed catastrophically. This should have triggered immediate design changes across the entire DC-10 fleet. Instead, McDonnell Douglas implemented what they called fixes. They installed small viewing windows so ground crews could peek inside to check if doors were properly latched. They strengthened vent valves and issued advisory bulletins. But these were suggestions, not mandates. The fundamental flaw Applegate identified remained unchanged. For nearly 2 years, hundreds of DC-10s continued flying with this known vulnerability. And somewhere in the world, another DC-10 cargo door was waiting to fail. March 3, 1974, Turkish Airlines Flight 981 pushes back from Paris-Orly Airport on a Sunday morning. On board, 346 passengers and crew. It should have been a routine 90-minute flight to London. In the cargo hold, a Turkish Airlines ground crew member struggles with the DC-10's complex door mechanism. The latches appear closed. The viewing window looks normal, but the locking pins are slightly misaligned. It's exactly the scenario Dan Applegate warned about 3 years earlier. Flight 981 climbs normally through French airspace. 13 minutes after takeoff, at 23,000 feet, physics takes over. The pressure differential overwhelms the misaligned latches. The cargo door explodes outward into the slipstream. Unlike Flight 96's partial floor collapse, this failure is total. The cabin floor pancakes downward, severing hydraulic lines, flight control cables, and electrical systems. The pilots lose all control inputs. The DC-10 becomes an uncontrollable projectile. 6 minutes later, Flight 981 impacts the Ermenonville forest in France. The destruction is absolute. No survivors among the 346 souls aboard. At the time, it's the deadliest aviation accident in history. The aviation world reels in shock. But here's what nobody expected. This was just the beginning of the DC-10's troubles. Remember, we're trying to answer, was the death jet stigma deserved or media hysteria? Death jet and flying coffin dominate headlines from London to Tokyo. Passengers worldwide refuse to board DC-10s. Travel agents report that up to 30% of passengers specifically request no DC-10s when booking flights. Some airlines quietly begin referring to DC-10s by flight number only in announcements, avoiding mention of the aircraft type altogether. French investigators quickly identify the cause, the same cargo door flaw that nearly destroyed Flight 96. Dan Applegate's buried memo resurfaces, its warnings now tragically vindicated. For McDonald Douglas, the damage is catastrophic. Stock prices plummet, orders are canceled. Their reputation as a safety-conscious manufacturer lies in ruins. The company that believed the DC-10 would secure their dominance now fights for survival. McDonald Douglas scrambles to fix the problem. They completely redesign the door system with redundant latches, backup systems, and cockpit warning lights. By late 1974, the DC-10 returns to service with genuinely improved safety systems. But public confidence is shattered beyond repair. The death jet stigma proves nearly impossible to overcome. Then disaster strikes again. May 25, 1979. American Airlines Flight 191, a DC-10 bound for Los Angeles, begins its takeoff roll from Chicago O'Hare on a clear Friday afternoon. 271 people aboard, trusting the aircraft's rebuilt reputation. During the initial climb, witnesses watch in horror as something impossible happens. The left engine separates completely from the wing. The massive General Electric CF-6 engine, weighing 12,000 pounds, tumbles across the runway as the DC-10 continues climbing. But the aircraft is now fatally damaged. The separation severs hydraulic lines controlling the wing's leading-edge slats. Think about the aerodynamics. On the damaged left wing, slats retract. On the right wing, slats remain extended. This creates catastrophic aerodynamic imbalance. The DC-10 banks left, stalls, and rolls inverted. 31 seconds after engine separation, Flight 191 crashes into an open field near the airport. All 271 aboard perish, plus 2 on the ground. It becomes the deadliest aviation accident in U.S. history, a grim record it holds to this day. The investigation reveals that American Airlines used an unauthorized maintenance shortcut. Maintenance engineers removed the engine and pylon as a single unit with a forklift, instead of following proper procedures. This time-saving method created microscopic stress fractures that led to catastrophic structural failure. While this accident was caused by maintenance errors rather than design flaws, the public makes no such distinctions. Every US-operated DC-10 is grounded. By late 1979, the DC-10 had been involved in 3 fatal accidents within 6 years, an unprecedented rate for a modern airliner. But Flight 191 wasn't the DC-10's only disaster that year. Just 5 months after Flight 191, Western Airlines Flight 2605 approached Mexico City International Airport through dense fog. Due to a communications breakdown, the DC-10 landed on a closed runway undergoing maintenance work. It struck construction vehicles and burst into flames. 72 people died in what became Mexico's deadliest aviation accident at the time. This wasn't a design flaw. It was pilot error and poor communication. But for a public already suspicious of the DC-10, it didn't matter. 3 fatal DC-10 accidents in 1 year created a narrative of a cursed aircraft that transcended rational analysis. The pattern had started earlier. In 1973, just months after the first cargo door incident, National Airlines Flight 27 experienced an uncontained engine failure at cruising altitude. Engine debris shattered a cabin window. 1 passenger was explosively decompressed and killed. Each incident, regardless of cause, reinforced the growing perception that the DC-10 was dangerous. Aviation experts understood the distinction between design flaws and operational accidents, but the traveling public saw only a deadly pattern. Meanwhile, the aviation industry itself was changing in a way that would make the DC-10 obsolete. So this brings us back to our original question. Was the DC-10 actually more dangerous, or was it just terrible timing and media amplification? Remember ETOPS, the regulation that made 3 engines essential? It's evolving rapidly. New technology allows twin-engine aircraft to fly increasingly long routes over oceans. The DC-10's 3rd engine, once its greatest advantage, becomes an expensive liability. Modern twins prove more fuel-efficient and reliable. Boeing's 767, introduced in 1982, captures the market the DC-10 was designed to dominate. Later, the 777 becomes everything the DC-10 promised to be: efficient, reliable, and trusted by passengers. The Tri-J market doesn't just decline, it collapses. Lockheed, already reeling from weak L-1011 sales, announces its exit from commercial aviation altogether. The TriStar proved that even brilliant engineering couldn't overcome poor timing and limited demand. By 1984, DC-10 production comes to a halt. In a desperate attempt to salvage their commercial aviation division, McDonald Douglas launches the MD-11 in 1990, essentially a stretched, modernized DC-10. But it arrives too late and underperforms on fuel efficiency promises. Even worse, airlines worry that passengers will see it as simply a stretched DC-10 and avoid booking. The Tri-J era ends not with celebration, but with quiet obsolescence. Yet the DC-10 found unexpected salvation in a second life nobody predicted. FedEx discovered something interesting about the DC-10. Remember that unusually large cargo hold designed to compete with passenger aircraft? It makes the DC-10 perfect for freight service. Away from public scrutiny, the aircraft's reliability improves dramatically. FedEx eventually operates over 60 DC-10 freighters, becoming the type's largest operator. UPS follows suit, converting passenger DC-10s for cargo operations. In freight service, the DC-10 finally fulfills some of its original promise, just not in the role anyone expected. But for McDonald Douglas, redemption comes too late. Weakened by the DC-10's commercial failure and unable to compete with Boeing and Airbus in new aircraft development, the company merges with Boeing in 1997. The merger effectively ends Douglas's 76-year history as an independent manufacturer. It leaves Boeing as America's sole large commercial aircraft producer for decades. The last passenger DC-10 retired in 2014 with Biman Bangladesh Airlines. FedEx operated the final DC-10 cargo flights in 2021, ending exactly 50 years of operational service. A few survive as aerial firefighting tankers, their powerful engines finding one final purpose battling wildfires. But the DC-10's most important legacy isn't in cargo holds or fire suppression. So let's answer our original question. Was the death jet stigma deserved? Here's the truth. The DC-10 had a genuine design flaw that McDonnell Douglas ignored despite clear warnings. That flaw killed 346 people in the Paris crash. But the other major accidents, Flight 191, the Mexico City crash, the engine failure, these were caused by maintenance errors, pilot mistakes, and operational issues, not design problems. Aviation experts understood these distinctions, but the public saw a pattern, and media coverage amplified every incident disproportionately compared to other aircraft. The DC-10 wasn't cursed. It was a combination of a real design flaw that should have been fixed immediately, corporate culture that prioritized schedule over safety, terrible timing as ETOPS regulations changed, and media narrative that created perception worse than reality. But here's the most important legacy. Dan Applegate's ignored memo became required reading in engineering schools worldwide. It teaches the critical importance of listening to safety concerns regardless of commercial pressure. Aircraft certification became exponentially more rigorous. Modern aviation is safer because of the lessons learned from the DC-10's failures. That might be the most important legacy any aircraft could leave behind. If this story fascinated you, smash that like button and subscribe for more aviation deep dives that reveal the truth behind the headlines. And check out this video next where I reveal the real reason the Concorde failed. It wasn't what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.